And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather video 2 of 3, looking at fields and features, things like coronal holes, sunspots, and the magnetohydrodynamic pressure around planet Earth. So we've seen a little lull here in the solar wind. We still see slightly elevated conditions. We'll get to the specifics of that momentarily. This is the past 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework out to about 12 Earth diameters. It's the Geospace Magneteosphere movie. If you want to learn more about the Space Weather Modeling Framework, just head to the Geospace Magnetosphere Movies page and click on the Details tab. This tab right down here. And there'll be a link to the Space Weather Modeling Framework where that will all be explained. Next, ground magnetic perturbations. Changes in Earth's magnetic field from the ground level, geospace delta B in nanotesla magnetic flux density. And like the last video, this is 4 hours of Earth's magnetic field changes. Fairly calm conditions at the moment. Here's the GOES magnetometer readings over the past 3 days. Earth recently moved into a South Pole current sheet. Probably around that moment right there. It was a fairly smooth transition, not marked by any major field changes. Let's take a visual of that. The top view ecliptic plane field plot, part of the National Sunspot Observatory. Keep in mind this data is 2 hours old. Earth is solidly in this South Pole current sheet, having left the North Pole current sheet early in the day yesterday, most likely. Next, the line of sight view. Nothing too remarkable going on there. Let's look at the coronal hole line of sight plot. Here's the sun's B field in blue. Those blue lines there are the field that goes through the sun as a magnet. South Pole oriented coronal holes here rotating into the Earth facing zone. So we won't have a lot of downtime in between coronal hole wind streams here. They'll be like 1 day and then additional coronal hole wind streams from those South Pole oriented coronal holes you can see there in red. The current coronal hole wind streams that are expected and currently arriving are from this North Pole oriented coronal hole shown in green. Here's the SDO imagery. 193 angstroms is good at showing coronal holes. There was a C-class flare here. We'll get to that in a minute. Out of that, barely a sunspot region there. That's sunspot 2957. It may have decayed to plage. Make sure you see our bonus features segment, as we will show the latest high-res images of that as well. So the best imagery of the sun on the internet, we do it daily. Here's the flare probability monitor, and the flare probability has gone way up with the growth of sunspot 2958, in my opinion. It's beta gamma class. And let's take a look at some sunspots. Here's 2954, 2955, and you'll be able to see 2956 as well. All right, maybe not 2956. It looks like it's decayed to plage. Here's 2958. You'll see some rapid growth here. One umbra kind of evaporates, and then another one forms to its northwest. Let that play through again before we show 2957. The most flare-producing region here. It's mainly a plage. We do see some umbra come and go up in this area. Looks like it will lose its name as a sunspot today if we don't see umbral reappearance. So here's the full disk view in 1700 angstroms. Let's blast through some more data here in our fields and features segment. So here's this C3 class flare. It's a C3.1, I believe it was. C3.1 there on the GOES 16 long. the largest X-ray flare over several days. And here's a close-up of it in 304 angstroms. Right at the end of the video, you'll see a brightening there. That was that C3.1 class flare. Great imagery there from the SDO. No spikes in the proton flux. No relativistic particles to speak of showing up yet. We could see some from a C-class flare, you never know. And we do see an elevated solar wind speed here. So this is a sort of an inconsistent coronal hole high-speed stream. I'm expecting an additional pulse here. Don't be surprised to see a density wave and then another increase and a more consistent signal in the solar wind speed here. Current solar wind speed, 523 kilometers per second. Solar wind density, about 8.5 protons per cubic centimeter. KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, is at 2. That's the planetary K index. Let's check heavenly bodies as we approach a new moon. Let's see what's going to be going on in a week. Here's where things will be on March 7th. We will have a crescent waxing moon on that date. Next, we'll show a star chart. If you're up before dawn, go check out the horizon. You may see Mars and Venus and the Moon and Mercury and Saturn all rising ahead of the Sun. That's what's going on above my head currently. It's light out here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, so let's blast through the rest of the video. We've also got a spectacular coronal mass ejection to show you, especially from the viewpoint of stereo A. So here at Lagrange point 5, we can see this massive coronal mass ejection here on the non-Earth facing side of the Sun. The Earth would be off in this direction from stereo A's perspective. Behind you, from the perspective of the LASCO C3, which is located here at Lagrange 1. Again, stereo A here at Lagrange 5. So great coronal mass ejection there, just a light show. Nothing earthly oriented whatsoever going on. Thanks for tuning into our Fields and Features segment. Don't forget to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. May that solar wind be at your back, and I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news.